In Woodsboro, a Stab franchise fan, Scott and his girlfriend Madison visit Stu Macher's house after hearing brief rumors that he might have survived having a television thrown on his head. While searching for Scott, she is scared off by a masked person.
Oh my god.
The duo continue checking out the house. He notices that the robot moved different this time. It attacks and stabs Scott. Turns out it's human this time. While trying to escape from him, Madison throws him off the staircase but hangs onto a chandelier. Moments later, she slips and falls on his knife. Meanwhile, in Pine Grove, Indiana, Sidney Prescott's daughter, Tatum, is startled by Ben, her boyfriend, who sneaks into her room through the window and begins to make moves on her. Tatum's mom comes in, already aware of Ben's presence in the house. She asks him to leave immediately, much to Tatum's dissatisfaction.
No more boys in windows, please.
Sidney runs a coffee shop and actually has 3 children. Lucas, their neighbor's son, requests for 4 espresso shots, which he intends to use for a long rehearsal which they're having at school today. Lucas's mom and Sidney have a little discussion together about their children and their past. The rehearsal begins, and Hannah loses her grip during the performance. Sidney gets a call from an unknown number. He requests for a video call and reveals himself to be an old and immensely scarred Stu. He mentions her daughter's name. Stu announces that he is going after Tatum and is standing just outside the theater where she and her classmates are rehearsing.
Showtime, bitch.
While Hannah and Aaron rehearse, he hears a strange sound. When Aaron goes to check it out, he leaves Hannah suspended in the air. Suddenly, the lights go off and the spotlight comes on. Ghostface shows up and cuts Hannah with a knife, and after stabbing her repeatedly, he guts her. Aaron is dead as well. Tatum comes out and is safe for now. They return home with a couple of cops brought in to sweep the house and ensure that there's no threat to their safety. However, someone is seen inside the attic. The Ghostface drops down. The lights go off. Mark goes in to find Tatum, who has already been caught by Ghostface. Sidney slams the killer with an iron club. They're now in Sidney's safe room. The killer notices that the safe room leads to an exit, but the passageway is just behind the walls. He begins to stab through the walls vehemently and cuts Sidney's arm. Mom and daughter escape to the rear of the house. The killer is run over by Gail Weathers and her assistants Mindy and Chad Meeks Martin. When he is unmasked, Sidney recognizes him as a suspicious man that bought coffee from her earlier. Jessica warns Lucas to stay away from Sidney's house. Could Stu actually be alive? It's too far-fetched. Chad tells Mark and Tatum that Gail is trying to rebrand herself. Gail tells Sidney that they have to find out who is behind this, and that they need to help the police find them, but Sidney wants to be with her daughter. Shockingly, the old man calls again. This time, Gail is present. He mocks Gail's life and career. He tells them that he's coming to get them and he's going to love every second of it. Gail's assistants have gone through the video footage of Tatum's home and are guessing that it could have been hacked because they didn't see anyone drop down from the attic into the house. Mark hears a strange noise inside the house. He begins to search the area without backup. While searching, he finds a toolbox left emptied on the ground. Out of nowhere, the Ghostface ambushes Mark, stabbing him repeatedly until it appears he's dead. They suggest that rounding up all of Tatum's friends in a room could help them get a lead. When Gail and Sidney arrive at the psychiatric hospital, they are greeted by the institution's supervisor, Marco Davis, who shows them Carl Gibbs' room. Gail and Sidney are now looking for a way to get Stu to call them again. Consequently, Sidney offers to give Gail what she has been asking her for since 1996, an interview. The curfew begins. Tatum, Ben, Chloe, and Lucas meet at a tavern where they are questioned by Mindy and Chad. This stems from Mindy's opinion that Ghostface has a personal connection to the target. Mindy claims that Sidney is a scream queen and that scream queens are not allowed to have happy endings. She claims that Stu is messing with Sidney because he was present during her prime when she was taking down Ghostfaces like it was nothing. The interview is about to start. Gail refuses to play nice with Sidney. She asks personal questions that make Sidney uncomfortable, and when she cannot take it anymore, Sidney walks away from the interview, bringing it to an end. A few minutes after the interview, Stu calls Sidney, claiming that he's at the tavern with Tatum. Sidney takes off. She can't get into her car, so she goes on foot. When Tatum sees a deep fake test running on Ben's laptop, she knocks him out and runs away. At this point, it would seem that Ben is the suspect, but no, it's completely far from this. Ghostface finds Tatum and begins to chase after her. At the tavern, Mindy, Chad, Chloe, and Lucas remain. While Chloe makes pizza in the kitchen, Mind and Chad try to leave, but the door is locked. Chloe hears something strange. It's Ghostface. Chloe hides behind the counter and tries to be as quiet as possible, but he finds her, and this time, he murders her.
Hey, Cupcake!
Meanwhile, Ghostface gets slammed by Tatum, who screams out for help, but nobody comes to her rescue. Ben shows up, then Ghostface stabs him repeatedly. Tatum flees to Sidney's coffee house. Sidney realizes that she may be too late to rescue her daughter, and so she guides her towards a gun, explaining exactly how to pull the trigger. Tatum claims that she's not like her, but Sidney tells her that she'll have to do this to survive. Ghostface attempts to get in. Sidney tells Tatum to pull the trigger from behind the wall, and it works. Ghostface is down. However, when she steps outside the office, it comes back up. She slams him with a fire extinguisher and a chair, but then another Ghostface shows up and grabs her. Sidney is late. Stu calls Sidney and reveals that Tatum is being held captive at home. He instructs Sidney to come outside, and when she does, she finds Tatum strapped to a chair. She lowers her weapon. Stu reveals himself to be Marco Davis, the supervisor at the psychiatric hospital. The other Ghostface appears and holds Tatum at knife point. Davis then drags in a wounded Mark. Shockingly, the other Ghostface reveals herself to be Sidney's neighbor, Jessica. Jessica explains that after reading Sidney's autobiography, she concluded that Sidney succeeded because she killed those who tormented her, prompting Jessica to murder her abusive husband. Jessica continues, saying that Sidney inspired her, but when Sidney disappeared from public life and was not present during the New York killings, Jessica was disappointed, and discovering where Sidney had moved to, she was held up in a mental institution where she met Davis. While she speaks, Mark cuts Tatum free, and she attacks Jessica, while Sidney shoots Davis. As expected, Jessica flees and Sidney goes after her. The fight begins. Both women plunge themselves into a deadly fight which sees Sidney stab Jessica multiple times, then Tatum guns her down. When Jessica gets back up, Tatum and Sidney repeatedly shoot her in the head. Mark is taken to the hospital. Finally, Sidney tells Tatum about her namesake and why she named her Tatum, because she wished for her to be strong and unafraid. Mother and daughter reconcile and the night comes to an end.